Okay, this lesson is going to be looking at the serial monitor for the TinkerCad Arduino. So I'm going to show you what it does, and then I'm going to build this back up again. So at the bottom, there's this little, I guess it's serial monitor graphic. And when you click on it, it opens up. And what I have right now is I have basically in the start program, I have a message that says run start, and so that's what happens initially. And then I have a counter, so it says change counter 1, and I created this variable and increase it by 1. And so if you look over on the right, you can sort of see that this variable here was created up here as an integer, and its initial value is set at 0, and then every time it goes through the loop it adds 1 to the value, and then it displays it with this command called serial print counter 1, and then it delays 1 second. And up here you have a serial print, and it runs start. Now the difference between the two is this ln. So ln at the end of print is going to give you a new line, and that's why you have this situation here where it is shown once. So now if I change that to the opposite, and then this one was without it, then when I clear it and start again, it's going to go run start, and the first number should be there, and then the second should be down. So if I stopped it and cleared it, then I could go both of them without, and then I could see that you would have run start, and then it would start counting, and it wouldn't leave a space because it's not told to leave a space. Whereas if you look up between run and start, there's a space there. Okay, so that's essentially what we're going for in the end. I'm going to delete, I guess. I'm going to go back to basically the start, and I'm going to create a new circuit. From here, I'm going to drag out just an Arduino. It doesn't have anything hooked up to it. And then I'm going to open up the code window, and I'm going to open, I'm going to do the drop down so I get text and code. From here, I'm going to grab this chunk and throw it in the trash can, and I'm going to open up the serial command. And so that's kind of where we start. So the code, because I threw that stuff out, basically has a delay, and I'm not going to touch this side. I might move this over to do that. I don't know if I can do that, just to give me a little bit more space. So what we want to do is we want to set up a serial command. So where do I find that? So right here it says hello world, and if I ran that, you would get hello world, and that's actually the first program that typically you run. Now it was in startup, so it would only run once. Let's see if I can move it. If I have it in that part of the code, then it's going to run infinitely, and it's going to actually be fairly rapid. If I stop it and I go to control and I add a delay 1 second, and then I clear this, then it's going to run every second. So my hope is that you start to understand this. Eventually we're going to get to the text code, but we might as well be learning it in just playing around with the little GUI things, or graphic user interface. Okay, so where were we before? We had a serial print in the start. We don't need to have a timer. We can bring this down here. We can change this message. So I think I had run start. And that's basically, this says start, but this says setup, so I could have either one of those. And I'm going to choose it to be with a new line. So it's going to be with a line. It's going to have sort of basically hit the enter key, so it starts in a new line. And then if I run that, essentially, I guess I forgot to clear it. So go down here to the bottom right and clear it, and then you run it. and you've got run start. Nothing else is going to show up because in the forever loop it's just a pause. Okay, so we need to see what's going to happen in there. So we go back to output. We're looking for serial print, and I don't know how many there is. Print to LED, no. So we're looking for serial print with hello world. We're going to put it in ahead of time, and we're going to run that, but I'm going to clear it first. So I start it, I expect to see run start, and then it goes into this hello world, and every second it's going to repeat and loop through that. Just over here it's going to loop through it. Okay, so now we want it to count. So how do we get it to count? Well, we go to variable, and there are no variables, so we're going to create a variable. So we got to give it a name, and apparently you shouldn't have spaces in your variable names. So I'm just going to go counter 2, okay, and then I click OK. So now I'm going to move this to here, and I'm going to hit run just to see what happens. So I'm going to clear it first, and what do I got? So if you look, you have essentially counter 2 set to 0 at the start of the code. It doesn't show you up here because it's happening behind the scenes. This line here, number 7, is serial begin. We need to have that so that we do get some sort of message in the serial monitor. This is our first statement, and you'll notice that it's between quotes, and it's in a different color, and that there's a semicolon at the end. So that's only going to run once because setup only runs once. And then this is the infinite loop, and it's just displaying the value of what this is, and it's essentially 0. So we're going to stop the simulation. So now we've got a couple options. It says set counter 2 to 0 and change counter 2. So before we display it, we're going to say, okay, let's increase it by 1. And then we're going to run it and see what happens. Now I did forget to clear it, so let's see if I can clear it. Let's stop it and then do it again. Clear, start simulation, so we get run start, and then it starts to count. Now what if we wanted it to be 0? We could do it a couple ways. We could move this to below. Let's see if I can separate that. I can bring that in behind it, below it, and let's see if that happens. So I'm going to clear, and then I'm going to, so it's going to go run start 0, 1, because it's going to count after it displays it. So the initial value was 0 from line 3 over here, and then it prints that value, and then it adds, and then it posts again. So there's little things in your code that you can do to get things to work the way you want them to work. What else can we do? We could have done it this way, whereas we could have set it to 0 first. Actually, we could bring that in and we could set it to 5 if you want. So let's say we set it at 5 and we clear it, and then our first number should be what? So start, it's going to start at 5, and the problem with this is it's going to keep setting it to 5. So that wasn't exactly what I expected. So I could take that out. I could move it up here, and then I could try, I'm going to clear it first, and then I'm going to run it. And what do I get? So it starts at 5 and then it counts up to 6. Well, what if I didn't want it to be on a different line? So then I could change it without a line, and then I could clear it, and then I could run it, and I can get start, and then it's just going to count up. Well, what if I wanted to have a space between the numbers? How do I add a space? Well, I could go back to output. I could add this part right there, and maybe I can blank that. And let's see if that works. So this one is without a new line, and this one would be with a line. So let's see if we can change it to without a line. And we're going to clear, and then we're going to start. So that did not work. So I'm not sure how we could do that then. That's a little bit confusing. There are ways of doing this, but I cannot think of them right now. Okay, so your assignment is to get this working. It doesn't matter to me what your output is. I do want you to show me this part of the code just so I can see what you're doing. And I do want you to be starting to pay attention to the text part. Okay, so you don't have to have anything with this part or with the Arduino. It can be blank, but you need to show me this while you're running. And make sure you have this open and clear it before you videotape your own self. Okay, good luck, have fun doing that.